Welcome to Primetime, everybody. I'm your host, Turner Chambliss, and this is the return of the horror headlines. If you guys don't know what the horror headlines is, myself and John Marr over at Why We Love Horror introduced this series as our weekly news topics in the world of horror movies in particular. But I'm taking on this role now. It's going to be right here on the Welcome to Primetime channel. And I'm going to kind of open it up. So we're not going to just talk about horror movie news. We're going to talk about if there's a big TV news or if there's big video game news. We are going to talk about that as well. We've got 6 big news topics for you guys from the week of September 8th to September 14th. So, if you guys are ready, let's get to the very first news topic. All right, so our first news topic, you guys see right there, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, A24 reportedly landing film and TV rights to the franchise. While we wait for their Friday the 13th television series, Crystal Lake, Deadline reports that A24 is also boarding the iconic Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. The rights have been up for auction with multiple interested parties around Hollywood, and the site's sources have indicated that A24 is close to winning film and television rights. That's from Jeff Snyder over at the N. Snyder. Deadline also reports first up would be a series from J.T. Mahler, Roy Lee, and Glenn Powell, though the latter will not star, as we've previously told you. Apparently, the deal hasn't closed just yet, but A24 has pole position. Deadline makes it sure to note in tonight's report. Another source close to the action tells us that this is all premature, but it's clear that the genre label behind Hereditary isn't letting this one go. The outlet also mentioned that Roy Lee has expressed interest in making another Texas Chainsaw Massacre film for Netflix, which could still happen with A24 boarding the property. The rights to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise are represented by Verse, with other interested parties in recent months, including Jordan Peele, Osgood Perkins, and Taylor Sheridan. It has now been 3 years since Netflix premiered Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a legacy sequel to Tobe Hooper's original classic that arrived on Netflix on February 18th, 2022. So, my thoughts on this whole big news. Love that they are bringing in a talented name like J.T. Mahler. If you guys don't know who that is, he directed Strange Darling last year. Easily in my top 5 of horror movies last year. I love the way that movie was shot and presented, and it gave me everything that I love. And to see that style brought into a Texas Chainsaw series can be very, very interesting, to say the least. So I'm super excited about that. Glenn Powell is a great actor, so super excited to see what role he might play. Love A24 as a movie studio and love their history of horror, really giving creative freedom to a lot of their directors to make the movies that they want to make and to tell the stories they want to tell. Very interested to see this new crop of directors and how their experiences growing up watching the Texas Chainsaw movies, how they can represent that while also telling brand new stories. Also love that A24 is blending new and old generation of horror. As you guys heard from that news report, they are making a Friday the 13th TV series called Crystal Lake. It seems like they're expanding their horror portfolio. Like, of course, you had the great Hereditary and Midsommar, but you also had films like X and Pearl and Maxine, these ultra violent, really, really slasher focused movies. Give Ty West a Texas Chainsaw movie. What he can do with these characters, I'm very interested in. So I'm very excited for this news. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below of A24 getting the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise potentially. All right, guys. Our second news topic also comes from BladeDisgusting.com. Scary Movie 6. Marlon Wayne named 7 horror movies being spoofed in this franchise return. The Scary Movie franchise returns to the big screen next year with Scary Movie 6, with Marlon Wayans, Shawn Wayans, and Kean Ivory Wayans back to write the new movie, and franchise stars Anna Faris and Regina Hall set to lead the cast. But which horror movies do the Wayans brothers plan on spoofing in next year's big franchise reunion? Much has changed about the horror genre in the 25 years since the scary movie franchise was launched. My God, 25 years. That's insane. With countless new classics for the brothers to spoof this time around. Speaking with comicbookmovie.com, Marlon Wayans spills the beans on some of the films he's going after. His quote is, "There are just so many great horror films to pull from that we plan on having a field day," as he mentions the following recent horror films specifically: I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream, Heretic, Longlegs, Get Out, Nope, and Sinners. Here's the full quote from Marlon Wayans. "I know, I'm just a huge fan of the whole genre. I Know What You Did Last Summer may have something in there. I think the Scream franchise is always a great one. I think Heretic was a wonderful film. Longlegs, Get Out, Nope. There are just so many horror films that we can pull from. We plan on having a field day." Michael Tides is directing the franchise's sixth installment, releasing on June 12th, 2026. The first scary movie was released in 2000, just 4 years after Wes Craven revigorized the horror genre with a meta slasher masterpiece, Scream. All right, I'm very, very excited for this one. I am a huge fan of the first two scary movie films. I think they are so funny and they take so many risks when it comes with the jokes. But it's not just what's great about those movies is it's not just comedy for comedy's sake. It's not comedy to, pick out plot holes. They make a really good film, a really good comedy film, but they take aspects from other movies that worked and that didn't work, and they make it their own film. It's not like epic movie, or it's not like disaster movie where they are clearly just picking on these movies because it's the popular thing to do. These movies, you could tell, were written and performed by people who love the horror genre and really are great at crafting great comedic scripts. As you guys heard in that quote, Marlon Wayans is a huge fan of horror. He's got a new one coming out, him, which he starred, and I cannot wait for that one to see the way he's going to take these brand new movies that have so many interesting ideas, like a Heretic. What would that look like? How can they spoof a movie that takes place in two locations that's dialogue based? Very interested to see how they do that. They also talked about I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is a brand new movie, came out last month, so I'm very interested to see. It's just going to be almost a callback to the original movie. You guys remember in the original Scary Movie, they had the pretty much scene for scene where they're driving the car, the friends are driving the car, and it's pretty much the car crash. So I'm very interested to see, with Scary Movie 6 being almost a requel in a way, they are bringing back the original mask from the original 2000s movie. This feels like a really cool idea to kind of spoof on legacy sequels. You can spoof on the Scream 5s and Scream 6s. You can spoof on the I Know What You Did Last Summers or the Halloweens. So it's very interesting to see them taking their time and to see the brothers, the Wayans brothers, come back to a property that they created. Super excited, super nostalgic. Cannot wait to see what they do with this movie. Cannot wait to see the return of Anna Faris and Regina Hall. Very great chemistry on screen, so I'm super excited for Scary Movie 6 to come out. All right, our topic number 3 also comes from BloodDisgusting.com. The Conjuring Last Rites had the highest global opening in horror movie history. 12 years old and 9 movies deep, the Conjuring universe was already the highest grossing horror franchise in cinematic history headed into this past weekend. And one thing is for certain, coming out of the weekend, the Conjuring universe's fatigue simply does not exist. Billed as the final installment in the saga, or at least the final big screen Conjuring experience to feature Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as the demon battling Ed and Lorraine Warren. Conjuring Last Rites scared up an incredible $84 million at the domestic box office, giving it the highest grossing debut weekend of any movie in the 9-movie universe. Worldwide, The Conjuring: The Last Rites opened up to $187 million, which is actually the second highest global opening for a horror movie in the entire history of the moving picture. here in the United States, and it scares up the third highest opening weekend for any movie ever. Variety now reports that the final worldwide opening weekend number for The Conjuring Last Rites was actually 194 million, which officially surpasses It 2017 and its 190 million global start as the biggest global start in history for a horror film. The Conjuring Last Rites had the opening weekend out of all of them, It and It Chapter 2, as well as Sinners and Final Destination Bloodlines, suggesting that it will become the highest grossing worldwide movie of 2025 when it's all said and done. The number to beat would be 366.6 million, made by Ryan Coogler's vampire epic Sinners, and we expect will be riding up the headline in weeks to come. All right. So, first off, congratulations to The Conjuring Last Rites for an incredible opening weekend. $193 million in the opening weekend is insane. Just let you guys know, I am recording this on the 15th, and this news story comes from the 8th. So, it's hard to tell how much it made now and if it's breaking any more records. But at the time of this recording, this is what we know so far. This number is great. This is nothing but good news for the horror community. There are some people who are not fans of this franchise. I like the first two, and I really enjoyed spin-off movies like Annabelle Comes Home and Annabelle Creations. I thought was really good. But this number is good for the whole horror genre because it shows that horror is a powerhouse. We had this. We had Sinners. We have Weapons doing great. Horror is thriving right now, and it's not only just the big tentpole films. Like The Conjuring Last Rites, of course, would make a lot of money because it's a tentpole film. It's a named franchise. People are going to be excited to see the final movie in the Ed Moraine Warren Conjuring films. But you got movies like Weapons doing fantastic. It's an original horror film. When you have big tentpole horror movies like this, like The Conjuring, it only helps the smaller movies because people are going to the movies to see horror and new horror movies get made. The more that we support horror in general, the more horror we can make. And that's what I love. I love being a fan of this genre. I love, being excited with new original movies come out, but also you got to have your tentpoles. You got to have your Conjurings. You got to have your Screams. You got to have all of these big type movies because that's where the horror audience shows the studios, oh, they want to see horror movies. Horror movies aren't just this, niche genre, and I'm very excited that we're getting brand new, different, and, original horror films, but I also love that we're getting the Conjuring films. I love that we're getting more Screams. I love the first two. I think they're really scary. I think they're really intense, but I'm not a really big supernatural horror fan. I don't really connect more to ghosts and ghost stories, but The Conjuring, the first one, what James Wan was able to do with that film, made it more accessible to me. And I will always appreciate James Wan and the Conjuring franchise for that. Conjuring 2, I think, is a great horror sequel. Conjuring 3, I know a lot of people hate. I saw it once, thought it was okay. It wasn't as bad as people said it was. Then you have the spin-offs. Annabelle was a disaster. Then you had Annabelle Creations, which I thought was really, really good. David F. Sandberg. Then Annabelle Comes Home, which I really enjoyed. I had fun with that movie. There's just the problem with the Conjuring films. I know this is going to contradict what I said before. Is there's just too many movies. There's too many of the same type of movies. Now, I'm not saying you can make the Annabelle movies different from the Nun movies. And they slightly are, but the tone is kind of the same. And the problem that the Nun movies had for me was that they were really boring. They were boring movies. I wasn't intrigued. I'm more intrigued when it comes to something like an Annabelle Comes Home or an Annabelle Creations that shows, more about family connection than just random jump scares. But that's me going off on a big tangent about the Conjuring franchise. Overall, this is really great for the horror community, and I hope people continue to support horror films, because then we get more horror films, when you get more horror directors, and we get more of the genre just expanding, and that's what I love. So, guys, let me know what you think of the Conjuring Last Rites box office down below. Let's move on to our next topic. All right, guys, our next topic from BloodyDisgusting.com is in our TV space. Bryan Fuller wants to make a Silence of the Lambs limited series with Zendaya as Clarice Starling. Bryan Fuller makes his feature directorial debut with the Mads Mikkelsen starring Dust Bunnies this December, which reunites Fuller and Mikkelsen's 10 years after the NBC series Hannibal had come to an end. Fuller has never given up hope on Hannibal returning to television. He tells Screen Rant that now he's got a particular dream scenario in mind. My dream project is to do a limited series of Silence of the Lambs with Mads Mikkelsen and Zendaya as Clarice Starling. The creator of the NBC short-lived Hannibal television series tells the outlet, "If I could pull anything into the universe, I would put that into the universe." Fuller has made no secret of the fact that he wants to put his own spin on Silence of the Lambs within the Hannibal universe, but that is more complex than you might think. The reason NBC's Hannibal never dived into the events of Silence of the Lambs is because the rights to that particular story and its characters are held by MGM, and MGM recently brought the characters back with their own series, Clarice, which aired on CBS. The series, which came to an end after one season, was a sequel to The Silence of the Lambs. The Delantes company owns the rights to the characters of Hannibal, but not the Silence of the Lambs story/characters, which is the big huddle Bryan Fuller would have to overcome. So I am very intrigued by this. I know this is not a news story. I know this is not, this is not happening, but the idea that Bryan Fuller wants to make more when it comes to the Hannibal TV series is very interesting to me. Hannibal was so well written in a way where everybody felt like their characters. Mads Mikkelsen was absolutely a young Anthony Hopkins in this show. He was scary, he was sophisticated, he was funny, and brought you in with a great charisma, but then he used that to pretty much make you eat your own words. And I love that interpretation of Hopkins Hannibal and of Mads Mikkelsen's. They feel like the same character. To see what Bryan Fuller can do with the Silence of the Lamb idea of this underdog, Clarice Starling, who is this, female in the FBI, a male dominated world. Bryan Fuller can do that really well. He can give us an underdog story, and nobody can play an underdog better than Zendaya. I mean, all you have to do is watch Euphoria and see how great she is as just a down on her luck character. You take that, but give her the heart of Clarice Starling. You give her that fighting ability of, like, I'm gonna prove people wrong. That sounds very interesting to me. Will it happen? I highly doubt it because of the rights issues being with MGM. Bryan Fuller could do a really cool, like, Hannibal universe type thing where it doesn't have to be connected. You could bring back Mads Mikkelsen as Hannibal, but it's after his time with Will Graham, and you can see where he kind of becomes that Anthony Hopkins Hannibal character. You don't have to do a shot for shot remake. You don't have to do the same story, but take the ideas of that story and write your own version of that. And with Bryan Fuller having such great ideas, I feel like this could work very well if he wants to take that kind of risk. So, what do you guys think of Bryan Fuller wanting to work with Zendaya for a brand new Silence of the Lambs adaptation? Let me know in the comments below. Let's move on to our next topic. All right, guys, our second to last topic of the night is kind of an indie horror movie, and its trailer just released last week. It is called The Healing, midsummer style folk horror film releasing next month. Abyss will gaze into you when The Healing hits DVD and VOD on October 7th from Alliance Home Entertainment. Bringing to mind the folk horror sensibilities of Midsommar, the trailer for the Soviet-Russia co-production can be seen below. Excuse the pronunciation. Labuda flees her abusive husband from a mysterious retreat with friends. Surreal rituals and haunting visions reveal dark secrets, pushing her to confront a terrifying choice: escape or succumb to a chilling fate. Directed by, again, gonna butcher this last name and I apologize for it. Directed by Denis Yasovuk, The Healing is described as a visual story that explores the depth of trauma and how we choose to heal and or change from it. So I saw the trailer for The Healing, and here are my thoughts. I love this type of folk horror films. If you're talking about movies like, of course, Midsommar, or going back to the original Wicker Man, which I thought was fantastic, and even movies like, The Witch, where it has this kind of, it has this supernatural element, but it feels realistic. That's what I love. I love Midsommar. I think that movie is incredible. Definitely hard to watch, but definitely one that just the environment you're in the entire time gets you captivated from the moment you watch the film. And I think that's what Ari Aster did very well. I'm super excited to see, Dennis's take on this folk horror film. The trailer looked very interesting, looked very cerebral and very visual. Like there was a lot of visual elements that I really loved. I did see that it is dubbed. I'm very interested to see if we're going to get an original version, maybe a subtitle version to be released with the VOD. Horror as a whole has always been a genre for people to express things that they can't express in other mediums, because you are dealing with, death and cults and, the supernatural. You can really take what you want to take and the message you want to receive and kind of show it on life in a visual aspect. Some look very interesting and colorful, and so much mystery going on that I'm very excited to see what happens. So guys, let me know what you think of the Healing trailer, and are you excited for it, and what is your favorite folk horror movie? Let me know in the comments below. Let's have a lively discussion. All right guys, let's move on to our final topic of the night. All right guys, our final news topic of the night is again in the world of TV, and I'm very excited for this one. Shudder's new horror competition series, Guts and Glory, gets a new October premiere date. From the mind of Greg Nicotero, special effects legend and executive producer of The Walking Dead and Creepshow, the horror competition series Guts and Glory has been set to premiere on Shudder yesterday, but Bloody Disgusting has learned that the series will now premiere closer to Halloween. Expect the first 2 episodes on October 14th on Shudder. The new series will be a part of the streamer's epic Season of Screams program event, which features a supersized lineup of new film releases, series specials, and live watch parties on Shudder TV. New episodes of Guts and Glories will roll out weekly on Tuesdays through the season's 2-episode finale, airing on Tuesday, November 4th. Greg Nicotero serves as host and showrunner of the series, which he describes as if Survivor and the Blair Witch Project had a baby. Guts and Glory flips the script on traditional competition shows, thrusting players into an immersive horror experience full of unexpected genre-themed challenges. The new series, which features an integrated sponsorship by Hyundai, blends the intensity of a horror film with the pressures of a reality survival show, confronting the contestants' fear, skill, and intellect in various scenarios. Players must survive the night or be eliminated in ways they never saw coming. So, after reading through this and seeing what the idea of this was, I'm super excited. I love really interesting takes on reality shows. I love Survivor. I love, Face Off, these kind of competition series. Hearing that Greg Nicotero is a part of it, who, as we read in the story, is just a special effects icon. When you hear that name, you expect just like the best when it comes to special effects. So to see that he's part of this, I'm interested to see what the idea of the Blair Witch Project is. I wonder if this is going to be more of a found footage type show. That could be very interesting, where like instead of having these big crews and this big set, you kind of have the contestants film their own stuff. I think that would be a very interesting way to put the audience in the driver's seat and to see what our contestants feel and what they see. I think that's a very interesting idea. So yeah, I'm very excited for this. I just love competition shows in general, and it was fun to be able to talk about it and see kind of the new ideas that Shudder can bring to us. I'm super excited for this season of Screams event. Shudder really just knocks it out of the park when it comes to horror. If you guys haven't, go check out their catalog. It is fantastic if you're a horror fan, not only for the B horror movies that I love, like Chopping Mall. Chopping Mall's on there. I love that movie. But just really good and grounded original movies. No one does it better than Shudder when it comes to the horror streaming aspect of it. What do you guys think of the new Shudder horror competition show coming out called Guts and Glory? I'm super excited for it, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. All right, guys, that has been your horror headlines for the week of September 8th to September 14th. I'll be back with you next week as we continue for more horror headlines. If you did enjoy this, please hit that like button, subscribe to Welcome to Prime Time, and remember, stay scared.